There we have it, the age-old rivalry of Jacob and Esau. Book of Genesis, chapter 27, verse 22, has Isaac turning his attention towards his son Jacob, in the midst of Jacob using the conniving actions, the deceit, to try and pull off, stealing somewhat, the blessings from his father Isaac. And when that act is taking place, Isaac turns to his son Jacob and he says, Hakol kol Yaakov, I hear the sound, the voice of a Jacob, but yet at the same time I'm feeling the hairy arms. And Isaac continues, V'hayadayim yedei Esav. So I do hear the voice of Jacob, but at the same time it seems to be oxymoronic in nature, because I am feeling the body and the hair, the hands of an Esau. The Midrashic literature makes it quite clear that this verse isn't just about one minor discrepancy and difference between Jacob and his brother Esau, but yet the very fundamental difference between the Jews and the Gentiles of the nations of the world is that Judaism, the task of a Jew, is to use his voice in the sounds of Torah, the sounds of learning, of studying the Torah, the sounds of prayer, of speaking to God. And we're supposed to build as well, of course, but the real builders of the world, that's Esau's task. Because Esau goes out into the world, they build. Who's putting up all the skyscrapers? Let's bring in a little Jackie Mason here. When was the last time you saw Jews putting up a building? You get a bunch of Gentiles together, 10 minutes, they got a room up. Jews, it'll take them 10 years. They're writing the paychecks to get the building up. But a Jew, get his hands dirty, get on the floor. No, the Jew is more the spiritual, the behind the scenes. Esau is the one using his hands. Esav itself, the very name, connotes the sense of asiya, which is the Hebrew word for the world of action. He is defined as well as an ish hasada. He's the man in the field whose focus is on his yadayim, on his clay maisa, on the acts of his hands, the vehicles through which he builds up this world. It's a seesaw relationship. The Midrashic literature makes it quite clear that when one is up, the other is down. When one is down, the other one is up. So how do we overcome? How do we stay on top? And the answer is that we have to learn from the way the Gentile nations of the world, the way they use their hands, their legs, the way they get involved in this world. Look at the enthusiasm, the excitement, and the energy that they put into things. A great sage from the 1800s known as the Katav Sofer, he writes in his collection of letters in number 18 that the Jew's job is to learn from the acts of the Gentiles. To learn from their acts, see the enthusiasm, the excitement, the zeal with which they approach so many of the things that they do. And we should learn from that and model that example and apply that, channel that into our prayer, into our loyal and dedicated service of God, into our Torah. Use that excitement. I remember when the first Star Wars came out, I read an article in the New York Times, there were people camping out for 2 weeks before the first showing in the first theater in Manhattan. When the first Star Wars came out, people are camping out for 2 weeks. I remember there was a guy named Joe who stayed up all night so he could be the first one to get the first ticket. And he gets into the movie theater after having stayed up all night. And there he is in the movie theater, and they're ready, all the news journalists, they're all ready to interview this guy Joe after the movie. You were the first one to see the first Star Wars. What'd you think, Joe? He says, I don't know, I fell asleep right when the movie started. Look at that excitement. Look at how much time and energy people put into movies, into worldly, mundane delights, into building beautiful homes, beautiful cars, beautiful vacations. Let's echo that model. Let's emulate their actions. Let's borrow that enthusiasm, that excitement, that energy. But let's apply that energy not to our koach hayadayim, the ability to create with our hands, but rather let's channel it into our defining trait of a kol Yaakov, the voice of learning Torah, of studying God's holy and precious Torah, and of praying to God, of tapping into the spiritual aspects of life as opposed to the physical ones. But let's put in the same energy, the same time, devotion, the same blood, sweat, and guts. Let's give it all we got, because God deserves it, and we'll gain all the more from it.